Welcome to the Kidmin Huddle with Amber Pike, where children's ministry leaders get equipped, encouraged, and empowered to disciple with intentionality, growing God's kingdom one child at a time.
Welcome back to the Kidmin Huddle. Last week was summer camp for me. I think this was year 19 that I have been attending, or now it's bucket list. I get to be camp director. Unfortunately, I came back, did the best ever unpacking, like everything got unpacked in a day, but I was prepping for Father's Day meal and had to go to the grocery and prep for church. And then I woke up Sunday morning with vertigo. So if you are watching this and you see me start to sway, I am still fighting vertigo. So not fun. But my week at camp inspired today's podcast because we had, I took 2 teens with me. Several churches had teens. A lot of our camp staff is teenagers, right? They're young. They're willing to serve for the summer. And I know you are using teens. If not, hey, you should totally be using teens. They have such gifting. They've got younger knees and hips. So they've got all that energy. They are great loving on the kids. But if we launch your average teen into serving, say VBS or camp, or talking about Sunday mornings, if we are just kind of launching the average teen with no training, it's not effective. Most teens don't have the maturity or spiritual maturity to step in and be a rock star leader without training. Now, there are those. Remember, if you know my story, if you've read my book, Intentional Children's Ministry, you've read that I was leading at 15. So there are the oddballs like me. But most teens, especially teens growing up now, they need some training. So I've got a couple of areas where you can train the teens at your church to serve at VBS, summer camp, Sunday mornings, midweek, wherever works. And they can be really effective, an effective leader and kingdom worker. So number one, I think that all of your teens in a leadership position, so not necessarily like my snack passer outers, my game helpers, not those, but if they're leading small groups, if they're teaching a class, if they're attending camp with me as a junior leader, they need to be Christians. I don't think you should have even a teen in a leadership position that is not saved. In the same way that you would not put a adult that is not saved over kids in a spiritual manner. So this might be your older teens. This might mean you've got like a rock star girl who is so gifted with littles that just can't be lead teacher because she's not saved. There you go. Other things that just some basic leadership training for this leader, you need to train them on the schedule, on the tasks that they are supposed to do, and the mission. Right? We are not having our teens there just for warm bodies or just to give them something to do in the summer, if we're talking VBS or camp. We want them to be serving. We want them to have a role because we need their help, right? They are an important part of our team. So we are setting them up to lead. And that includes making sure that they know where they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be doing. There needs to be clarity on that instead of just, all right, well, you're with this group, have fun. Honestly, our teens might need, and some of our adult leaders too, they might need more detailed instructions. They might not see the things that you would just assume they would see and pick up, like bathroom breaks, or the fact that they need to, stand outside the bathroom and make sure that all the kids are done and back in the room. They might not think of these things. So detailed tasks, what are they supposed to do and when? You don't want to be frustrated when your teen is not where they're supposed to be because you haven't set them up for success. And then, with this, the mission, what's the purpose of them serving? Why are they at VBS? Why are they going with you to summer camp? What is the big goal? Do they know that? So those are just 4 like basic leadership things that when you're training your team, you're training them to be leaders. Next, really important is relationship building is key. And I think this is something that needs to be trained. They need training on, they need communication on. Part of their job is to build relationships, no matter where they're serving, right? I'm looking at any team that I've ever had in VBS or camp, helping me in church. Part of their job is relationships because to kids, Man, those teens are the coolest. They are so much cooler than us boring grown-ups. Those teens, though, the kids want to be them. They want to be friends with them. They think they are the best. So train your teens on what that looks like and how we're building relationship. And the what not to do part of this training means that they are not sitting on their phones and they are not just hanging out with their fellow teens. This is, I think, probably one of the hardest things when it comes to using teens to serve. Naturally, just the kids growing up now. So let's see, our teens at the beginning of Gen Alpha are our beginning teens, like our very, very young teens. And then before that, I don't remember what's before that. Gen Z? Is it Gen Z? Their digital generation. So they would much prefer to be on their phones. I remember walking in years back into the youth room before service started. And I don't know, 6, 10 kids in there. And they're all texting each other in the same room. That's what they're doing, right? They're on their phones, they're on social media. But when they are supposed to be serving, if they're at VBS, if they're at camp, if they're in Sunday, that phone needs to go away. And if they're using it for a timepiece, one thing. To take pictures when you have photo releases, another. To be able to communicate with you, the leader, hey, we're missing XYZ, absolutely. But they do not need to be sitting and scrolling. They do not need to be scrolling during lesson time or chapel time. They do not need to be just sitting on their phone or ever playing games with kids on their phone when they're supposed to be engaging or watching or building relationships. And you, the leader in charge, or whomever you have tasked with that, sometimes need to go and police them. Be like, hey, get off your phone. Go do this. You might have to remind them, I know so-and-so is super cool and you want to talk with them. You can do that later. Right now you're on with the kids. Often they just need a good reminder. But because, as we're talking about relationship being key, because you have built a relationship with them, that fussing at, that correction comes a lot easier to swallow. So your leadership team needs to be pouring into these teens and building relationship with them. So for example, at my last church, my core group of teens were kids that had gone from my ministry for years and years and were now in youth group, and they were my key volunteers. And so I had these big old guys who were taller than me playing football and all that. And do you know what I called them? Ducklings. I called my teens ducklings. And they followed like little ducklings. And they called me Miss Larry. My name is not Larry. If you're new to the podcast, by the way, I'm Amber, not Larry. And I was Larry. It was an inside camp joke from years back, and it stuck. And so Larry would call them ducklings, and they answered. So can you imagine a 18-year-old just graduated high school, getting ready to go into the military, one of them, and he answers to a duckling? Yeah. And he didn't feel weird about it. Why? Because we had a relationship, and I'm kind of weird, and they just rolled with it. Build relationship with them, and then teach them how to build relationships with kids. Give them practical things like camp. For me, it's Spot It. Spot It is such an easy relationship builder for those kids who don't want to engage. Questions, give them some back pocket games for those dead times. However you're training them, they might need some really practical things, but relationships are key and they need to be building those. Similarly, the next thing that we should train them on is looking for the loner. This is especially in a camp and a VBS situation, but I think it's very applicable to Sundays as well. What kid isn't joining in? What kid is feeling left out? For whatever reason, what kid wants no part of whatever is happening? Train your teens to look for that kid. Now, they can't do that, once again, if they're on their phones. Here's an example. And this is my favorite picture from camp last week. If you follow me on social media, which, hey, you should do, let's go be friends. I posted it. It's my favorite picture. It is my son he is 15. He is like 6'2". He has all arms and legs. He is very tall, very skinny. And I'm walking down to our rec center, I'm popping around place to place, make sure everything's good. And I walk down and I see this little girl, one of our smallest little second graders at camp. Like, she's tiny. And my son showed me, he goes, hey, Mom, we're having s'mores. And this little girl did not want to play hockey. She took some rocks and she built a little campfire, and she took a little leaf, and that was the flame, and she got 2 sticks. And so my son, this 6'2" giant, is eating imaginary s'mores with this little second grade girl because she didn't want to play hockey. I melted. And this was exactly what he should have been doing. And he told me after, he's like, was that okay what I was doing? Because, there were other leaders on hockeys. And then one of the leaders, she had some girls over there coloring, and this little girl was by herself. Was what I did okay? I'm like, but you did exactly what should have happened. That's exactly what needed to happen. This little girl didn't want to do that thing. And he found her and he met her where she was at, and he engaged with her, and they ate pretend s'mores. It was adorable. We had another young adult at camp. I'm going to give her young adult. She's 20, I think. So she picked out from the group. She just saw one girl was often by herself, kind of on the fringe of things. And I would see this young lady being friends with this girl who wasn't really engaged. And she'd be like, oh, show me which one you did. Oh, show me who's this. Oh, do you want to go here? She found the loner, the one who wasn't engaged. Now, look at both of these kids. So this little girl making s'mores, this other girl who was a loner. If no one had engaged with them, that might have left a not so great taste in their mouth about camp. Now let's flip this. Maybe it's about VBS or Sunday morning. No one wanted to be with them. No one hung out with them. But one of your teen leaders was trained and met them and built relationship with them and loved on them. That needs to happen, but there needs to be some training, right? They might not always think that. I had another first, this is not on my list, but at camp for the first time in my entire career of ministry, did I see that it was a 14-year-old boy who was the first one to be able to see the need and meet it. That is pretty rare. And we were in Bible study, and I had a group of really squirrely little second, third graders, very squirrely. And some of my leaders weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. They weren't where they're supposed to be. And I was getting ready on the mic to ask one of my staffers to come and sit here. But before I could get it out, because, I'm watching the room while I'm teaching, and before I can even get out that I need help, one of our youngest staff at 14, he was there for this week, he gets a chair and he comes and sits in the middle of them, even though that wasn't even his group. And I'm like, oh, amazing. That is exactly what should have happened. That is pretty rare. If you've got one of those, keep them. Excellent volunteers. To be able to see the need and meet the need, that's a skill that has to be developed. Your teens might need to be told this, right? For my son, Reed, to be able to find the little girl and go, that's amazing. That might not happen organically yet. So train them, give heads up, do the, hey, guys, we are looking for the loners, the ones who aren't engaging. Then you do X, Y, Z. Or it could be like, hey, see my friend over there? They are not engaging in this. Why don't you go hang out with them? Here's some spot it. Go play with them. Here's some questions. Go talk. Play rock, paper, scissors, whatever. You might need to task them with that. And that's okay. It's learning. The next thing that I think you should be training on, and this one kind of comes with a caveat of know your teens, but are you equipping them to share the gospel? So at camp, it was a super wonderful week. It was a hard week. It really was. It was hard. But the reason it was hard is there were 12 salvations. So for sure, Satan didn't want godly kingdom work happening, right? So one group had 6 kids in one night accept Christ. And do you know who had those conversations with some of them? The teen leaders they brought. You've got 15-year-old teens who are there as like junior leaders, leading kids to Christ. And the really cool part about this is that their church was intentional with doing evangelism training before they went to camp. Guys, I'm a little ashamed to say I've not really ever done that with my teens. Why haven't I? This was amazing. I wish I could have been a fly on the wall during those conversations to hear. There was this one boy, he was super sweet, and I would see him like holding hands with the little boys when they needed it. It was adorable. Loved it. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to hear these 15-year-olds leading kids to Christ. Now, there was an adult present, but how amazing. Loved that church was doing that. They trained them. They gave them the space to do that. And they did have an adult there to make sure that things are happening the way that they needed to happen and oversight, and they could step in if they need. But man, have you trained your teens? Have you equipped them to share the gospel? I apparently have been undervaluing teens. Maybe you have as well. So this is a challenge to equip them to share the gospel. Pretty cool. And then lastly, as we're thinking about training our teens, make sure that you are pouring into them. I have found a lot of times with camp, especially the teens that I'm taking to camp or serving at camp, sometimes it's them meeting a need for me. And sometimes it's me meeting a need for them. I've taken teens to camp or had them at VBS or had them serving in children's church when I didn't need them so much as they needed it. They needed their gifts developed. It was a gifting and they needed a place to serve. So my challenge to you is make sure you're pouring into those teens, just like you would your adults, but maybe even a little bit more because they are still growing and developing. They might be going through a really tough time. They might be questioning spiritually. They might need a hug or a high five. They probably more so than your adults need to be told that they're doing a good job, right? They're still figuring out how to lead and serve where God's calling them to. So they might need extra positive praise. I tease not really tease, but my camp staff, I tell them I want to mom them. They're really young teens. And this might come as a shocker to you, but apparently I'm getting older. I still feel like, I still think that I'm in my 20s. My body feels like I'm in my 70s and I'm in my last year of my 30s. And I just tell these staffers, I'm like, I want to mom you. I'm like, drink your water, go to bed, take your vitamins. I want to give them hugs. And there's some that I look forward to every year. It's the one time a year I get to see them is at camp. And I'm just full of hugs for them. Sometimes as the leader in camp and VBS Sunday mornings, your job is to love and pour into your team. And that includes your teens, your staff. Sometimes to go hang out with the kids isn't what's most important. Now it is important and you should have other people doing that. But sometimes you might need to pour into these adults or these teens. So I'm like segueing a little bit from the teens. Another camp story. We had a lady that was just struggling. And so this was the hardest day of camp. It was day 2. And I'm walking down to the rec center, checking my next thing. My daughter comes up to me, like running to me in tears. She hates the activity. She's crying. We're a bit dramatic in this family. As soon as I get her off, before I can go to do the next thing, I've got an adult come up to me in tears, needing a hug, needing prayer. Guys, that's what we're there for. What about these teens? Do they need a hug? Do they need a prayer? Do they need a silly nickname? Do you need to call them ducklings? Do they need to call you Larry? While at camp, one of my former ducklings sees my camp pictures on Instagram and she's like, I miss you and I loved camp. Now she is serving at camp as a camp staff at a different camp. I've got another one of my teens. It was his birthday. It was always his birthday during camp. And so I texted him on his birthday and his grandma had let me know that he is serving in the ministry this summer in another state with his college. Guys, these were my teens serving. Now I'm getting all teary-eyed. Whew. I'm not taking the credit for this. These are some amazing teens with some great parents, but they were servers. They were honestly some of my helpers that I depended on because they had such a love and a gifting at a young age. I see this in my son. He is 15 and he is good with kids. If he can just figure out how to get the discipline part of things down, he's going to rock it. He's already looking for the loner and engaging with them. He's a scheduled kid. He'll stay on schedule at VBS. The teacher that he serves with doesn't stay on schedule. So my son's the clock watcher. He's like, okay, now it's time for this. And he leads them. Let your teens serve. They're developing their gifts. I am so thankful that I had a mom and a church who let me serve as a teen, who equipped me, who gave me space to develop the gifts because God absolutely knew what he had planned for me, and it was to go in the ministry. And I had such an easy time starting out in ministry, feeling confident and knowing what I was doing. Now, I totally did not know what I was doing in a lot of areas, but I walked in confidence because I'd been doing it as a teen. Teens are amazing. Whether they are your jam or you want the littles, use these teens. Give them space to serve because you might have the next Miss whoever or Mr. whoever. God might be calling them now as a teen. That was me. I was called at 16, serving in Vacation Bible School. Rickshaw Rally by Lifeway. I was wearing my pink kimono top, chopsticks in my hair because I had longer hair. And I had the 3s and 4s and we were teaching them to go fish for Jesus. And we're on the rec pad and I feel God say, Amber, I want you to do this for the rest of your life. That was a lot of years ago. And I'm so thankful. I had the space to lead as a teen, to serve the kingdom so that God could equip me, call me, and then send me out to do his work. My friends, train your teens. Let them serve. Let them grow in their giftedness. Let them be fellow kingdom workers with you, but take the time to train them. Hey, if you've got teens serving, tell me. Share it on social media if you've got some tips or tricks as to how you lead them, what you do. If you're doing evangelism training, I would love to hear about it. Let's talk. Let's be friends. I would love for you to hang out with me. Social media, Amber Pike _ Intentional Kidmin. Go hang out in the family ministry community. This is our super cool Facebook group at Renew Nation. I just want to be friends with you, encourage you along the way. If you've got things that are awesome happening, share, because I'm still learning from you guys too, even though I've been in it for a long time. Keep going strong this summer. I'm going to go lay down from this vertigo because I move my head way too much when I talk. I hope your summer is going great, or whenever you're listening to it, that this podcast, I hope your season is going great, that you are getting some wonderful teens to serve with you. You're training them. And remember, what you do matters.